This video contains monsters as well as weapons that were not present in the base version of Monster Hunter World. So if you are trying to go in completely blind, this video will reveal some of the monsters that are present in the Iceborne expansion. They were all featured in trailers, so there's nothing that has not been seen in a trailer in here. However, if you're trying to go in completely blind, I just wanted to give you that warning. Like I said in the previous video, it is going to become increasingly hard for me to produce B-roll that does not contain new content. Hope you guys can understand. Hope you enjoy the video. Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're kind of here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and today we're going to be talking about elemental damage. Now, what brought about this particular topic of discussion is the research that I've been doing around elemental charge blades. Now, you guys asked me to focus on the charge blade, and if you guys have watched my previous Monster Hunter World content, you will know that I am a fan of the idea behind the power element file, even if its implementation during Monster Hunter World was somewhat lackluster. Pretty much most of the time, its more powerful brother, the impact file, was always able to get ahead, and you would always get more consistent results that you would be able to use throughout different monsters, as opposed to having to align yourself with a different element. And even then, even in the situations where you aligned yourself with the opposing element of the monster, a lot of the times you could get better results with the impact file. Now, eventually, we received Cold Taroth, and with Cold Taroth, we received that redonkulous Ice Charge Blade, which has had a ton of ice damage that allowed people to stack Ice Attack on top of that and really get some impressive numbers on their power element files. But other than that particular Charge Blade, the only one that had something even remotely similar to that was like the Valhazak Charge Blade, if I'm not mistaken. And even then, it's like the results on that were not as great as the Ice Charge Blade. And it's like the Ice Charge Blade, you could really only use it on monsters that were weak to ice, and then you didn't have the other elements to complement that particular playstyle because there was no other Charge Blade as powerful as that one. Now, with the introduction of Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Capcom decided to buff elemental damage, so naturally things are going to change. On top of them buffing elemental damage, we have new gear to contend with, and we also have a new set bonus, which is really good. We also have a crit element. We have the new augmentation system. And with all of the stuff that I've been looking at, trying to figure out a decent elemental charge blade set, I figured that I would share some of my findings with you, which were very interesting to say the least. Now, whenever you're talking about elemental charge blades, one of the ones that I've seen used quite a bit throughout a lot of videos is the Deep Schneggel 2. Now, if I put the stats on screen, you guys will tell me, oh, okay, people are using it because it's got a crap ton of ice damage. And yes, you are correct. It is the highest ice damage that you can get on the charge blade tree right now. But the interesting thing about this is that you're looking at it and it's got 480 ice damage, and you're just thinking, okay, I'm gonna stack plus 6 ice attack on there, maybe add 2 or maybe even a 4-piece Namielle set bonus, and try to basically squeeze out that ice damage as much as I can. Well, at its base state, to be quite frank, I wouldn't really go above 2-piece Namielle set bonus. Now, for those of you that don't know the Namielle set bonus, it is a bonus that gives you a proc that increases your elemental damage. But elemental damage still has a cap, and that cap is dependent on the base elemental damage of the weapon, which in this case is 480. Now, the cap for this particular weapon, after I tested it out, is 770. And the only way that I had to really reach that cap was to put 4-piece Namielle set bonus coupled together with plus 6 ice attack. So you guys are like, well, you should use Namielle set bonus then, right? But the thing is, the difference in elemental damage, it was 740 with only 2 pieces, and then like 770 with all 4 pieces. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I've tested this, right? And so I thought, you know, for 30 elemental damage, taking into account that the Namielle set pieces are really not that great in terms of skills that you're going to be getting for them, I'd rather go with the 2-piece and try to get other things. But here's where the new augmentation system comes in. Because what if I told you that instead of limiting yourself to 480 ice element, you can actually take the base elemental damage of this weapon all the way up to 650. Now, I myself can't do it because I don't have the materials, and right now I'm focusing a lot of the usage of the augmentation materials on my gun lances, because at the end of the day, that is my main weapon. That is the weapon where I have to focus a lot of my upgrading efforts in, And naturally, I'm not going to be spending everything on charge blades because that is my secondary weapon. It's going to take me quite a while before I can actually squeeze all the damage up there, but I know that a lot of you guys will want to know, well, how exactly do you go about doing this? I'm not going to be able to give you like the material names and stuff like that. You'll have to look that stuff up yourself, but I do want to explain to you how it works in the new augmentation system. So these are all materials that you're going to need to be getting from the Guiding Lands, which if you guys have gotten to the Guiding Lands, you guys know that you have to pick the zones that you want to farm, and that is why I personally can't be farming everything that I need for charge blades, because I'm putting a lot of my efforts into gun lances, and as such, the areas that I have leveled up might not necessarily line up with the things that I need for the charge blades. Hopefully that is somewhat understandable. Anyway, let's begin talking about this. So the Deep Schneggel 2 is a very interesting weapon because it's got a lot of ice damage, as we've discussed. On top of it, it is a reskin weapon, and I'm not going to talk about the reskin situation. Most of you already know how I feel about that. I think that a lot of the weapons in Monster Hunter World Iceborne are extremely disappointing in the way that they look. But it is important to talk about this Iron and Bone reskin in the context of the augmentation system, because all of these weapons that end up in their final form as an iron variant or a bone variant that just has some monster parts slapped on top of it, they give you access to a new set of upgrades that the other weapons don't have, which is the custom upgrade system. Now, when you go into the custom upgrade system, you're going to change the way that your weapon looks, which, to be quite honest, doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because you're basically mixing something that appears to be a feature for cosmetic purposes with a feature that also gives you stats. And most players that are meta-driven and min-maxers are going to go for the stats, and they're going to be upset about whatever their weapon ends up looking as. Myself in particular, like, I have the Valhazak gun lance, but it looks like a Glavenus gun lance, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense, but whatever. Anyway, continuing onward. So with this custom upgrade system, essentially you're able to get plus 50 elemental damage by upgrading your weapon 5 times. Each time you upgrade your weapon, it is going to consume a different set of materials, and after you perform that upgrade, you get plus 10 element. You can do this 5 times, so that's plus 50. Okay, but I told you guys we're going to be taking this to 650. We're still missing 120 damage. Now, those are going to come from Element Status Effect Up, which is a new augmentation that you can put on your weapon. Now, if you look at the Deep Schneggel 2, due to the fact that it is a Rarity 10 weapon, it is going to have more upgrade sockets than weapons that are of higher rarity. Because very much like in Monster Hunter World, whenever a weapon was of lower rarity on its final form, you had more augmentation slots, right? Well, the augmentation slots work a little bit differently this time around, but it's still the same deal. The lower rarity the weapon has, so long as it's in its final form, the more stuff you can put on it to make up for the fact that it is a lower rarity weapon. Now, in the case of the Deep Schneggel, you can put Element Status Effect Up 1. That is going to cost you 1 slot, and this weapon from the beginning has 5 slots. So if you then go into status effect, element slash status effect up 2, that is going to consume a total of 3 slots. So that's 2 more slots. You can then add another one on top of that, and it will be element status up 3, and it is going to use your 5 slots. But every single weapon now has an additional upgrade that you can do, which is called extra slots. And the number of slots you get extra are going to vary depending on the rarity of the weapon. So the rarer your weapon is, the less slots you're going to get. But since the Deep Schneggel is a Rarity 10 weapon, you're going to be able to get 2 more slots. That means 1 additional level of element status effect up, which I can't even dream the materials that you're going to need to get this done all the way. But basically, each time you upgrade your element status effect up on the new augmentation system, that is an additional 30 elemental damage. So if you can upgrade it 4 times, that's going to be an additional 120 elemental damage. And then if you take into account the custom upgrade system, that is going to be an additional 50 damage, totaling to 170 damage. That's a lot of elemental damage. And at that point, I do believe that you're going to need 4-piece Namielle set bonus to reach the full potential of this weapon. However, if your weapon is not that high of an element, you're probably better off sticking with only 2-piece Namielle set bonus. Hopefully this made sense to most of you. It most likely didn't, because I understand that it was a bit of a rushed explanation, but this was just the stuff that I've been researching earlier this morning and last night to try and figure out how I was going to go about actually crafting this elemental charge blade set that I'm not going to be showing you because it's not really finished yet. But just know that depending on how many augmentations you place into your weapon, you're going to be looking at changing your set entirely. And I do mean entirely. This is just to give you the longer explanation of what I will tell you when I show you my set, so that I can tell you, oh guys, by the way, this set works because I still don't have the augmentations on this weapon. If you get the proper augmentations, you're going to need to do something different. I should also say that this is a particularly exciting time to play Monster Hunter World Iceborne because it is before the meta is really established. It is when you're still figuring out how all of these little systems work, because I don't know about you guys, but when I figured out, wait a second, you're trying to tell me that I can add 170 elemental damage to a weapon? That's insane. But then things work differently because you have some rarity 10 weapons that are not the iron/bone reskins, and those weapons can't use the custom upgrade, so they lose the 50 elemental damage and they can only get potentially 120. Or if they're rarity 11, they can only get like, let me think, they can only get 90 additional elemental damage. And then you also have to factor in, but what if I want to get health regen? Then you're going to have to steal three augmentation slots from your weapon, which means you're going to get even less elemental damage, at which point you definitely don't want the 4-piece Namielle set bonus. It's some really crazy times. I'm going completely insane. Someone please send help. My brain is going to explode. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit it up with a like. If you are new here, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all that good stuff. Leave me your comments and feedback in the comment section down below. Stay strong, and may your shields never break. Seriously though, send help please. I'm addicted. Help me.